And now from the Coastal Empire and Low Country studios of WJCL News. WJCL News at 5, working for you.
We start at 5 with breaking news. As you just saw, WJCL, the first local station to bring you live coverage as a casino boat returned to shore. Good evening, I'm Kevin Holmes.
And I'm Jennifer Andrews. More than 120 people were stuck. There you see a live picture, the casino boat off the coast of Tybee Island. It was out to sea and beached more than 12 hours. 96 passengers, 27 crew members were on that 174-foot-long vessel. It is named Escapade. It happened about a mile and a half off the Tybee shore. The vessel ran aground around midnight. Right now you can see the second ship is docking. It is dropping off the second set of passengers. What a day it has been for that crew. We have team coverage of this wild escapade tonight. Ashley Lincoln is at the marina where family members anxiously await passengers' return. And Chief Storm Tracker meteorologist Jeff Kirk is tracking the waters and the wind to show the conditions on the water during the wild escapade. We begin though with WJCL's Nick Notario. He has been on this story all day long, even taking a boat out to the site. Well, he is now live where the passengers are coming in. And by the way, we were the first to bring you live pictures of the passengers being returned to land. There you see him, Nick, out of the location. What a harrowing experience, Nick.
Well, you know, it's been a long day for these people, for myself, for the Coast Guard, for the crew aboard that ship, everyone involved. This is what it looks like right now. You saw it off the top, but let me just set the scene for you. This is a second boat that just came in with the remaining passengers. About 120 people were pulled off of the boat. That includes passengers and both crew. Now, I spoke to some of the passengers, a few of them angry, saying they had bruises on their ankles from having to stand for such a long period of time. There were also other people, let's say they had a blast, believe it or not. They had a ton of fun. They said the air conditioning was on. They had free food, free water. They had high spirits, telling jokes. They even made some friends. But what we've been told from the Coast Guard, they're investigating exactly how this happened. But around midnight, they say, is when the ship struck a sandbar. They don't know exactly why yet. And the focal point of today's operations were to try and get that video, get the ship right off of the sandbars. They had tugboats out there. They tried to move it. It was no good. So after about noon, they decided to go with the evacuation route. And that's when they had people climb down ladders and get them into the Coast Guard boats. Now, no one was hurt. However, they did have to do 4 medical evacuations, and this was only because 4 people did not feel comfortable climbing up and down the ladders. People down here, they're thankful. They're doing all right. They had a cooling station set up, so they're drinking water. They're getting in the shade. They've got a shuttle service bringing people over to the Bull River location. We're probably about 4 miles from where all their cars are. But there were only 50 of these. There was 3 shuttles that could take 50 people, and there's about another 70 people here waiting. So they're sitting around, they're getting some water, they're trying to keep their spirits up. And like I mentioned, the Coast Guard trying to figure out exactly what happened. There are 3 investigators out there. Now what's going to happen next, about 1 a.m. is when the next high tide comes in. They're going to try once again to use those tugboats to try and push that ship right off the barge. If that doesn't work, we'll see what happens. Good news is, though, guys, the ship not leaking any fuel. There's 3,500 gallons of fuel in that boat. So obviously a big concern to make sure they get that off the barge safely. So we're going to keep monitoring this. You're going to hear from some of these passengers later on tonight at 10 and 11. But for now, reporting live out here outside the Coast Guard, Nick Notario, WJCL News, working for you.
Hey, Nick, a quick question. I know that there's been a lot of speculation as to what went wrong, what may have caused this. I know that there has also been talk that, you know, this even the most seasoned pilot can run into troubles like this. Any word as to a cause? I know I was reading one of the Coast Guard official reports, and they were saying early indications are maybe there was a navigation system issue.
They don't want to speculate right now exactly what happened, but the Coast Guard did tell me it was an accident. They said accidents happen to even, like you mentioned, the most experienced pilots. I was out there in the water today getting shots, and it creeps up on you. I mean, that sand barge is there, and, you know, he said it was an accident.
And Nick, what can you tell us about arrangements, seating arrangements inside? Because this boat isn't equipped for overnight trips or trips that are longer than 3 or 4 hours.
Well, luckily it was a maiden voyage, so there was plenty of food and drinks on board. So they were given, it was mainly snacks, but they at least had a lot of water, so they were able to get some of that. And now some of them say they're looking forward to getting a nice home-cooked meal tonight for dinner.
They are. I saw some of the photos, and they even had their flotation devices on all the passengers, just in case.
All right,
Just in case.
All right.
You're welcome.
We'll check back. Thanks, Nick.
Meanwhile, at the Bull River Marina, family members have been anxiously awaiting passengers' return.
Yeah, can you imagine? Ashley Lincoln has been talking to the families there all day long, and she joins us live at the marina. Ashley, they must be very relieved.
They are so relieved, Kevin and Jennifer. They are so relieved, Kevin and Jennifer. We've had about 3 buses already pull in with bus loads full of people that were on that boat. When they got off the boat, family members just erupted and clapping and just really excited that their loved ones are back on safe ground. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of these people on this boat, they had health issues. Some are up in their 50s. I talked to one passenger, and he did tell me that it was pretty calm on the boat throughout the whole time. The AC did go in and out, so it was some periods of being uncomfortable with it being hot and them out on that water, as you can imagine. Also, he also mentioned to me the food situation. They were able to spread out the rations of food, knowing that boat is not equipped to feed that many people for that amount of time. But he said all in all, he's thankful that they did make it back to safe ground. Now, some of the family members that I spoke to said one woman, her husband, who was a DJ on that boat, he was fine, but he did suffer. He depends on medication to get him through the day. So today was pretty a struggle for him. He has high blood pressure. But all in all, a lot of families said they are just very happy and thankful that their loved ones are making it back safe and sound. And here's some sound from some of the family members that we spoke to earlier today.
She just told me to pray, and she said the Coast Guard was on their way. And then at about, looks like 2 something, she texted me again and said we're stuck. And so I asked her, is everything okay? She said, well, it feels like we're shifting. And I asked her, was there a leak or something? You know, what's happening? And she just said she didn't know. And so we've been praying and calling family ever since.
I said, hey, sister, I'm here. She said, I know you would be. And I said, I know you know I love you. I said, we all love you. And be glad when you come home.
And the reactions have been mixed from the family. Some people say they won't let their loved ones get back on this casino boat if it continues to operate. Some people say this was just an unfortunate mishap, but they'll give it another round. One woman was so excited to have her husband back home. She did communicate with him throughout this whole process. All he said he wanted was some pork chops and some rice and beans waiting for him when he got off that boat. And she had those pork chops and rice and beans waiting for him. So a lot of families camped out here all afternoon just waiting for their loved ones to return back. But they are happy that they are on dry land, safe and sound, and this turned out to be a good outturn for them to get back here pretty safe. But for now, reporting on Wilmington Island, Ashley Lincoln for WJCL News, working for you.
Now take a look at your screen. We want to give you a better idea of where the boat is right now. The casino boat went aground in the vicinity of the Calibogue Sound in South Carolina, and that boat could be sitting there for a while. Earlier, authorities said they tried several times to tow the escapade, but the tow lines broke.
All right, checking now with Chief Meteorologist Jeff Kerr. He continues our team coverage, and we want to break down exactly what the conditions were like on the water that made this so difficult. I know they tried 3 different times to rescue this boat.
Right, and you just mentioned about the tides. I'm going to show you first the upcoming tides as far as the boat is concerned. The high tide occurs close to 1 o'clock tonight, as Nick was saying earlier. Let's look at the tides, the forecast here coming up. High tide Fort Pulaski, 12:38, just after midnight. It was actually close to high tide last night when the boats got stuck, which is kind of unusual. So it may not be that easy to get it unstuck, but of course we'll leave it up to them. Now the wind last night, close heading to midnight, was right around 15 miles per hour. And maybe a little bit higher just offshore. These are the wind right on the coast at Tybee and Hilton Head this morning, a little bit over 10 miles per hour. They were concerned about the wind for a while to get the people off, and the wind was still blowing at about 12 miles per hour or more offshore at noon. But this afternoon, the wind came down, and we saw the wind down to around 5 miles per hour at 3 o'clock. And right now the wind is back at 8 miles per hour out of the southeast. Glad to see that the folks are getting back on land. And as far as your forecast for the water overnight, well, west wind 5 to 10 knots. That'll bode well. And then tomorrow it's going to be out of the northeast. Fortunately, the seas have been fairly low today. And another thing that's really helped, we didn't have storms today like we did yesterday. It's been pretty quiet. We've only had a couple of showers out there this afternoon, and it looks like there will only be a slight chance as we head through this evening. I'll have more on your weather, including a weekend forecast coming up in a bit.
Jeff, thank you, sir. We all know this is a very popular area for boating.
It really is, and it's also very important to remember the dangers of shallow water, especially when you consider the tide. Officials say if your boat does get stuck in shallow water,
the bottoms of boats aren't flat, they're rounded. There's a possibility of it tipping if the soil's hard enough or the beach is hard enough. There's also a possibility of it staying too long and it causing a suction. If the soil's too soft, it'll sink down in it, it'll cause a suction, and it'll be hard to get it back off. You want to get passengers off as soon as possible so that you don't have a capsization.
good advice. Walker says boats of all sizes run into the trouble. He says the most important thing is to learn the area and study up on possible dangers.
We've been covering this ship since we first found out it was coming to the Coastal Empire. The Escapade Casino boat made its maiden voyage about 3 weeks ago. The ship features dozens of slot machines, card tables, bars, restaurants, and a dance floor. Tradewinds Casino Cruise Line brought in the boat in May and docked it at the Bull River Dock on Wilmington Island. Chatham County gave the company a day cruise permit earlier this year. Don't forget, gambling is illegal in Georgia. However, once the boat gets 3 miles offshore, the gambling can begin.
And we will be continuing our Wild Escapade coverage throughout the night. To see all of our coverage, including a full photo gallery, just head to our website, WJCL.com. All right, an update now to breaking news that we brought you last night. A man was shot near Forsyth Park about 11 o'clock last night.
He's recovering tonight, and we're working to uncover why he was shot. This is a story we brought to you as breaking news last night. You may recall on our 11 o'clock newscast last night. Our own Chelsea McDonald is here in the studio with an update. Chelsea, what can you tell us?
Well, Kevin and Jennifer, the victim, Rex Hausman, was found on the ground after being shot in his leg. According to the police report, the suspect walked up to Hausman and demanded for his wallet. When he didn't give it up, that's when the suspect shot him and ran northbound through Forsyth Park. So here's a look at the crime scene from last night. Hours after the shooting happened, the Downtown Neighborhood Association